Good afternoon. I'm calling the meeting to order. I note that some of the participants are participating via video conference. Today's public meetings are also being live streamed from the Port Authority website. We will now hold the public committee meeting, starting with the Committee on Operations, which I will chair, followed the Committee on Finance, which will be chaired by Commissioner McCabe. A meeting of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management will follow, which will be chaired by Vice Chair Linford. We'll conclude the public portion of today's meeting with the public board meeting. We'll start the public meeting of the Committee on Operations. Earlier today, the committee met in executive session to discuss matters related to the lease of all real property where disclosure would affect the value thereof or of public interest. At this point, we ask the board secretary to advise those present to the composition of the committee and any commissioner recusals on the matter before the committee on today's public session.
The Committee on Operations is composed of Chairman O'Toole, the committee chair, Vice Chairman Linford, the committee chair, and Commissioners Kelly, LaBarbera, and McCabe. All committee members are present with the exception of Commissioner LaBarbera. Also present today, Commissioners Bolwage, Eve, Vine, Fisher, Helmy, and Richardson. Eve and Bolwage being remote. There are no recusals required.
Great. I'll now call on the Chief Development Officer, Derek Utter, and our Director of Ports, Beth Ann Rooney, to present an item that would authorize supplement to extend the lease with regard to the container terminal operator, APMT, at the Elizabeth Port Authority. Derek?
Where are you, Derek? Good afternoon, Commissioners. Derek and I are here this afternoon to seek your authorization to supplement the lease at the Elizabeth Port Authority Marine Terminal with APM Terminals. Next slide. Oh, I have the control. This afternoon, we'll talk about the container terminal overview, an introduction to APM terminals. Derek will speak about the key lease provisions, and then we will seek your authorization. So again, just for orientation for everyone, we're talking about our marine terminal facilities that are located in Port Newark, Elizabeth, Bayonne, Jersey City, and Staten Island. The Port Authority uses a landlord model, whereas some other ports in the United States are an operating model. We are the #1 port on the U.S. East Coast and #3 in the United States. All total, we have about 3,000 acres of facilities, and 5 of them now are dedicated to container terminals. And we're speaking today specifically about APM terminals, which you see circled there on the map. APM terminals takes up about 345 acres in the Elizabeth Port Authority Marine Terminal. It is the second largest of our terminals in the complex. All totaled, it has about 6,000 linear feet of berth and wharf structure. And between the APM terminals and the neighboring terminal to the north, MAR Terminals, is an intermodal express rail facility known as Millennium Marine Rail, which is jointly operated by APM Terminals and MAR. The lease with APM currently expires on December 2029. APM, if you're not familiar with them, is the terminal operating business of A.P. Moller Maersk. Maersk is the Danish shipping and logistics company that was founded in 1904 by Arnold Peter Moller. Second largest shipping company in the world. They operate today in 130 countries with over 500 warehouses and 100,000 employees. Last year, they made $56 billion in global revenue and are a publicly traded company. Most notably is that they have been calling at the Port of New York and New Jersey now for over a century and is the longest-serving ocean carrier in the Port of New York and New Jersey. APM is the 4th largest terminal operator in the world, managing terminals and assets in 33 different countries. Here in the United States, New York, New Jersey has been, I would say, their signature and their home base in the United States. They also have operations in Los Angeles, Miami, and Mobile, Alabama. And I'll turn it to Derek to talk about the new lease provisions.
Okay, so as Beth said, we have 5 container terminals operated by 4 operators. So this is an important transaction since we are extending the lease by 33 years. So The broad framework of this transaction is that we will provide a lease extension until 2062 from the current 2029 date, and we will receive a lease extension payment. In addition to that, there will be an increase in rent consistent with the transaction that we were involved in as a change of control transaction 2 years ago. And so rent will change from a fixed plus a variable portion to an entirely variable rent, which will be based on per container, and it will be higher than it is today. It will be subject to a minimum annual guarantee. Importantly, we will be transferring the obligation for the wharf and berth infrastructure, which has been the Port Authority's obligation, to the tenant. And the tenant in this case will replace 100% of the wharf and berth structures over the course of the next 15 years. They also have commitments to expand capacity and throughput, both in the near and future term. And then there is a term we term windfall protection, which is tied to excess container storage revenue, which was something that happened during COVID. Outside of the financial terms, there are also a variety of what we call non-financial terms related to alignment with our objectives around sustainability and our net zero goal as an agency by 2050, MWBE and local participation, minimum performance standards, key performance indicators or KPIs, and various reporting requirements which will allow the Port Department to provide oversight and governance to a larger degree than currently exists. And then a number of other initiatives related to safety, security, improvement to the trucker experience, and to work with us as a partner on applying different ideas around innovation, like use of drones, things like that. So that is the broad framework for the deal. We feel like this is a positive development. And so the request today will be for the board to authorize this lease supplement as described over the last a few minutes. Do you have any questions?
All right, any questions? I know we've had a lot of discussions over the last year, and we'll have obviously a vote and some discussion during the public. Any questions now? We can push it off to the public. Seeing none, we have a motion from a committee member who is not recused. Have a second?
Second.
Any objections? None. Motion's passed. That concludes today's Committee on Operations. Thank you, Derek and Beth. The next meeting is the Committee on Finance, which will be chaired by Commissioner McCabe. Commissioner McCabe.
Thank you, Chairman. Today's meeting of the Committee on Finance is being held in public session in its entirety. At this point, I ask the Secretary to advise those present of the composition of the Committee on Finance and any commissioner recusals on the matter before the committee of today's meeting.
Thank you. Committee on Finance is composed of Commissioner LaBarbera, the committee chair, Commissioner McCabe, the committee vice chair, and Commissioners Fine, Kelly, and Richardson. All committee members are present with the exception of Commissioner LaBarbera. In addition, also present today are Chairman O'Toole, Vice Chairman Linford, Commissioner Bulwidge, Eve, Fisher, and Helmy. There are no requests for action, no recusals required.
Thank you. I call on our Chief Financial Officer, Libby McCarthy, to present the 2024 financial performance results. Libby, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good afternoon, Commissioners. Just starting out with the audited condensed financial information that I'm presenting today is best understood when read in conjunction with the financial statements of the Port Authority, its component units, and the accompanying notes thereto. That will be available on our website within the next day or so. In addition, I want to note that these results are prepared in accordance with the Port Authority's bond resolution, which is the basis of reporting that we use to set our budget and is included in the 2024 audited condensed financial statements prepared on the basis of generally accepted accounting principles. Overall, the Port Authority achieved solid financial results for 2024, allowing us to meet the needs of increased activity at our facilities and ramp up our annual capital spending to deliver transformational infrastructure assets for the region, which we were required to lower during the years immediately following the COVID-19 pandemic. Net operating revenues for 2024 totaled nearly $2.7 billion and are $163 million or 6.5% higher when compared to 2023 results. Further, after factoring in our net non-operating revenues, including the items noted here, The Port Authority's net revenues available for debt service totaled $3.8 billion for '24, nearly $160 million or 4.4% higher as compared to 2023. This is a key metric that determines the capacity that we have to support our capital plan. And this strong performance has allowed us to scale up that annual capital spending back to pre-COVID planned levels. I'll discuss the key drivers of this change in more detail later. First, we'll look at activity. This slide shows our annual activity levels at our bridges and tunnels and aviation facilities, which are the Port Authority's two largest line departments and contribute the majority of our net operating revenues. For each business line, we have included 2024 volumes in green and 2023 volumes in light blue. The TB&T activity is on the left and the aviation on the right-hand side of the page. Bridge and tunnel activity in '24 was essentially flat year over year as compared to '23, with more than 122 million vehicles utilizing our crossings. Of note, 2024 auto volumes were slightly lower than the previous year, but truck volumes surpassed '23 levels by more than 4%. At our aviation facilities, the Port Authority reported our busiest year ever for the second consecutive year. 146 million passengers used our airports in 2024, an increase of 2 million passengers over the prior year. This strong 1.5% year-over-year growth was primarily driven by increased international passenger activity throughout the year, up by more than 5%, with domestic travel down slightly versus 2023. On this next slide, we show PATH activity on the left and port activity on the right. PATH, like other mass transit commuter systems in the region, continues to see a depressed level of ridership due to shifts to remote and hybrid working environments. PATH served more than 57 million riders in 2024 and experienced a meaningful uptick in activity versus the prior year, finishing 13% ahead. We have included the 2019 activity levels of 82 million riders in gray to illustrate the PATH level of ridership remains low and is currently at about 70% of pre-COVID levels. However, it's important to note that in the latter months of '24, we saw a monthly ridership as high as 74% of pre-COVID levels following the Labor Day holiday. Our ports remain the busiest seaport in the East Coast and marked its third busiest year ever in '24, handling 8.7 million TEUs. It is consistently among the nation's top 3 container ports based on volume. As compared to '23, activity in 2024 was 11% higher. We attribute most of this increase to suppliers rebuilding or further front-loading their inventories to mitigate the potential supply chain interruptions, mostly toward the end of this year, in anticipation of potential tariffs and their effects on global trade patterns. This all translates into our gross operating revenues, and this slide here shows you the breakdown of the agency's revenues as compared to '23. Gross operating revenues for '24 of $7.1 billion increased $387 million, or nearly 6% as compared to 2023. 2024 toll and fare revenues were $98 million higher than 2023, driven by our annual CPI-based toll rate adjustment in January of '24 for our bridges and tunnels, as well as the higher PATH fare revenues given the higher PATH ridership I just discussed. Rentals were $190 million higher, mostly driven by increased activity at the airports and marine ports, as well as new rents associated with various airport redevelopment projects at Newark and JFK airports. Aviation fees were $113 million higher and primarily consist of cost recovery revenues. This large increase is primarily associated with the new airline cost recovery agreements that went into effect in January of 2024, as well as general cost recovery for the higher activities at the airport. Lastly, I want to note that parking revenues are slightly down, mostly due to a decrease in parking revenue in connection with the redevelopment at JFK Airport. Moving on to operating expenses, total operating expenses in '24 totaled $4.3 billion, reflecting an increase of $224 million or 5.5% as compared to '23. A majority of this increase is due to the general inflation increases and higher activity levels at our facilities. In addition to these drivers, healthcare expenses for active and retired employees, including the non-cash actuarially determined retirement benefit, and increased above general inflation as a result of market trends. In addition, employee compensation and contract services expense increased above general inflation as a result of heightened security needs, traffic mitigation costs for JFK redevelopment work, increased path costs to improve service, and increased maintenance dredging at our marine ports. Finally, the revenue-based rents we pay for our airports and certain marine ports were higher, given the higher revenues at those facilities. Moving on to cash flow. Cash from operations for 2024 of approximately $3.2 billion increased $288 million versus the prior year, or nearly 10%. This is consistent with the growth in net operating revenues I described earlier. Cash and investments at year-end totaled $5.9 billion, an increase of approximately $500 million, which is primarily due to that higher net operating revenue growth. And in addition to those cash and investments on hand at December 31st, Port Authority had approximately $436 million of additional sources to support the capital construction program, consisting of unspent bond funds currently in the capital fund and available bank revolver borrowing capacity. When excluding the General Reserve Fund and capital funds, cash and investments at December 31st of this year represented 324 days of cash on hand. Finally, our bonds and other financing obligations at December 31st, 24 totaled $28.1 billion, which is a decrease of about $70 million compared to the prior year, as scheduled retirements and refundings of debt exceeded our issuance of new bonds. This concludes my remarks, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Libby. Do any commissioners have comments or questions regarding the report? Hearing none, this concludes today's meeting on the Committee on Finance. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner McCabe. The next meeting is the Committee of Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, which will be chaired by the Vice Chair, Jeffrey Linford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's meeting of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management is being held in public session in its entirety. At this point, I ask the Secretary to advise those present of the composition of the committee and any commissioner recusals on the items before the committee.
The Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management is composed of the Vice Chairman Linford, the Committee Chair, Chairman O'Toole, the Committee Vice Chair, and Commissioners Helmy, LaBarbera, and Rosado. All committee members are present with the exception of Commissioner LaBarbera. Also present today are Commissioners Eve, Fine, Fisher, Kelly, McCabe, and Richardson. There are no recusals required with respect to the two matters on the agenda.
Thank you. I call on our Chief Development Officer, Derek Utter, to present an item that would authorize a project for enhancing public transportation access to LaGuardia Airport. Derek.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. So I'm here today to speak about LaGuardia mass transit options and advancing one particular one. So most people know that we operate the region's major airports. We also think a lot about how people get to the airports. And so this project is one to improve options for people going to LaGuardia Airport. So as you may recall, about 2 years ago, an expert panel made recommendations to us to improve ground access programs. And they looked at a whole variety of options ranging from subway to bus to new technologies, air train style programs and the like. And last June of 2023, the board authorized $30 million for planning to advance two of those options, including the one I'm going to talk about today, which would improve bus service in Queens. This one in particular is on the Q70 bus, and we're going to request authorization for $160 million to proceed with this project. So as background, for those of you who don't know, currently there exists the Q70 bus, which is a nonstop shuttle service from the subway station at Jackson Heights to LaGuardia Airport. The challenge is that the average trip time from the subway station ranges from 10 to 30 minutes because of traffic. The improvements that we are recommending today are to reduce the risk of delays, to improve the travel time, and to be much more have much more expected travel times to get to the airport. So we're recommending that the Q70 bus lanes be installed on the highways to bypass congestion when there is traffic, that green lights be held longer. New York City calls this traffic signal prioritization, which gives buses priority and opens red lights faster, keeps green lights open longer. To create a newly constructed on-airport turnaround area to avoid the frontage congestion at Terminal C and speed buses, to have more frequent buses at peak times, and to improve wayfinding signage and branding. I'll go through each of these elements briefly. In terms of the bus lanes, we would create bus-only lanes to enable the buses to bypass traffic when there's congestion on the BQE and the GCP. We've been working with New York State DOT as the lead agency who manages both, and these bus lanes will allow for a shorter, more consistent travel times and improve the bus reliability. Second, as I mentioned, the green lights in the neighborhoods. As you see listed here, there are 3 zones where we have been working with New York City DOT to extend the green lights for buses and reduce the travel time. Third, on airport, what you see on the screen is a diagram of the route that the bus travels when it gets onto the airport and goes all the way over to the far end of Terminal C on the east end of the airport. The red line shows the current route that the buses travel, and you'll see it goes all the way past Terminal C and doubles back, and it does so in mixed traffic with cars and for-hire vehicles and taxis, which is often congested. What we're recommending is to avoid this traffic congestion is to have a new bypass road that allows for buses to avoid all of that and simply turn, as you'll see on the green line, into the edge of the parking garage. That bus stop, relative to the current bus stop, is equidistant for travelers to walk. So no change in the traveler experience other than bypassing a huge amount of traffic. Fourth, enhanced branding and bus wraps. We think this will start to give some visibility to this as a lead way for people to get to the airport. And then lastly, wayfinding and signage, which would extend from the subway platform up to the bus stop itself at the subway station. The timeline for these improvements is what I'll call the construction light elements of this proposal will go into effect in 2025, including the increased frequency of buses, and those elements that require civil work, for example, the bus lane construction and on-airport construction, would conclude in 2027. So our request today is that the board authorize this program at a cost of $160 million, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Derek. Do any of my fellow commissioners have comments or questions on this matter? Hearing none, may I please have a motion from a committee member who is not recused on this matter to move the item forward for consideration by the full board? May I have a second? May I first have a first?
So moved.
May I have a second? Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is passed. I now call, once again, on our Chief Development Officer, Derek Utter, to present the 2024 capital performance results. Derek.
All right, thank you again, Vice Chairman. So I'd like to now just recount our progress in 2024. Excuse me. As I do each quarter and each year. So our spending for 2024 was about almost $2.6 billion on our capital projects. That's up from 2023 by almost $500 million. This is the highest spending level since 2020 when COVID hit, and we achieved 87% of our planned schedule milestones. As I say to you, every project has 2 milestones: the end of our pre-construction phase, which means we have scoped a project and gotten it to contract award, And then once the contract is awarded, we have a second milestone, and that's the completion of the project, the construction completion. So if you want to look back at history here, since 2017, our capital plan has been increasingly spending up until 2019. 2020 hit, we put the brakes on a lot of spending projects, even in projects in construction, in order to adjust to the new reality of a shortfall of revenue that was caused by COVID to all of our operations. We stayed at relatively low levels of spending through 21, 22, and 23, and you'll see a market uptick this year in 2024 of $2.6 billion. We expect that to increase next year to $3 to $3.5 billion, and so we expect this trend to continue, so we revert back to pre-COVID levels this year and next year. In terms of on-time results, 87% is close to, but not quite where we want to be. Our goal is to hit 90% of our milestones. You'll see the trend here going back in history. 2017, 2018, where we were well below that. In 2019, we hit our goal, and we have been treading water through the last several years, absent the 1 year of COVID, when we purposefully slowed down projects in 2020. This is an improvement since last year. We put a real concerted effort on a couple of areas where we knew that we had an opportunity. For example, on some of our internal approvals process, we found that we could expedite faster and meet some of our milestones. Next year, we have a couple of areas of focus. One is to make sure that we are looking at our December milestones, given the holidays can create challenges well in advance, and to look at our limited construction resources for certain of our projects done by our own in-house folks to make sure we stay on top of allocating resources better there. So again, our target next year is 90%. So to conclude, just to give you a sense of some of the major projects that were delivered in 2024 in terms of contract awards, you'll see on the list, I won't read through all of them. Some of the notable ones include the Midtown Bus Terminal Replacement Program. We awarded the contracts for the Dyer Plaza deckovers to begin that project. And you'll see some of the ones on the right related to projects that were construction completions. I'll mention the one at the top, very important, where we have put in place a process to decarbonize some of our buildings. So Building 1, the admin building at Newark Airport, is now fully decarbonized. No greenhouse gases emitted from the building by virtue of a rehabilitation project we did. We're going to look to replicate that at other buildings in the future. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Derek. Do any commissioners have comments or questions regarding this report? Hearing none, this concludes today's meeting of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, and I turn it back to our chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good afternoon. The board meeting of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and its component units is now being called to order. Today's in-person meeting is also being held via video conference with the proceedings live streamed from the Port Authority website. On March 12th, the Audit and Finance Committee met in executive. Earlier today, the Committees on Finance and the Committees on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management met in public session, and the Committees on Operations met in public and executive sessions. The Commissioners also met in executive earlier today to discuss matters involving external or internal investigations or audits, matters related to security or public safety, matters related to the purchase, sale, or lease of real property where disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interest, matters related to personnel proceedings, and matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals. We're going to begin this meeting today with a moment of silence to remember a individual from the Port Authority family who passed away in February. We lost Joseph Lendreas, an assistant resident engineer in the engineering department who had worked 26 years of service. He joined us in June of 1998 as a junior engineer, was promoted in 2014 as assistant resident engineer. He was an assistant resident engineer for years. He was responsible for working on both capital construction projects and tenant alterations regarding many of our projects, including the Midtown Bus Terminal. Joseph will be remembered by his colleagues as being incredibly hardworking, incredibly diligent, and is always striving to get the job done right. Can we stand for a moment of silence for Joseph, please? Thank you. Joseph is survived by his wife, Yesenia. Our prayers and thoughts go out to Joseph and his family. All right, we're going to hear from this adorable baby, whoever has I can't believe the baby's quiet. It's terrific. Well, all right. We recognize the actions of two groups of brave Port Authority police officers who provided life-saving first aid to individuals in medical distress. The first was dealing with the bus terminal. The second is the Port Liberty Cruise Terminal. I ask our Superintendent, Ed Setnar, to come up and give us some context for both incidents and introduce these folks. And then we have some proclamations to give to our police officers. Ed?
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, thank you again for your continued support to the men and women of this department. This is a snapshot of what goes on each and every day throughout our facilities and what the work that the men and women do. As you said, Chairman, the first one was at the bus terminal. On January 9, 2025, at 6:47 p.m., Officer Perez, Officer Esposito were assigned to a post and were flagged down for a female that was possibly having a seizure at the top of the escalators. Officer DeSalvo responded with a medical bag, and upon arrival, they found a 29-year-old aided to be unresponsive, pulseless, and taking agonal gas. CPR was initiated by Officer Perez and Esposito, while Officer DeSalvo applied the automated external defibrillator and administered oxygen and bag valve mask. After a total of 2 shocks and 4 minutes of CPR were delivered, it resulted in the return of a spontaneous circulation at 6:54 hours. A few minutes later, after regaining a pulse, the aide regained consciousness and was alert and oriented. She was then transported to Mount Sinai Hospital. If not for the quick actions of these officers and their training that we continually afford them, this young lady may have succumbed to the event. These officers performed in the highest traditions of the Port Authority Police Department and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey as a whole. It's my honor to present to you, to the Commissioners and the Chairman, Police Officer Perez, Esposito, and DeSalvo. Please stand. Sorry, I failed to mention there's many family members here that have joined them to celebrate this heroic action.
Who's got the charming child over there?
I'm not sure which one.
All right, there you go. So, Superintendent, after we recognize the 5 collectively, we're going to have the 5 come up, and I want all the commissioners to come greet them with you and Greg Erie, and we'll give the appropriate citation.
Thank you, sir. I'll brief you on the second one, Commissioners. Police Officer Tempel and Police Officer LeBron. On January 27th at approximately 11:05 hours, they were flagged down at the Bayonne Cruise Terminal security for a 77-year-old unresponsive male. Upon arrival, Mr. Carl Henry Van Tobel was lying on the ground receiving CPR by his wife and a witness, John Muller. At 11:07 hours, Police Officer Laban applied the AED and administered the first shock. Police Officer Tempento continued CPR compressions on the victim. At 11:12 hours, Mr. Van Tobel was breathing with a pulse. Emergency medical units responded to the scene at 11:20 hours. They transported him to Bayonne Medical Center. I'm proud to announce that once he got there at 11:45, Mr. Van Tobel was responsive and communicating with the hospital staff. Again, if not for the quick actions and immediate actions of these officers who utilized their training, Mr. Van Tobel could have succumbed to this episode. Again, I would like to present to you Police Officer Tempento and Police Officer Laban. Please stand.
The commissioners and our superintendent and Greg Erie come join, and the 5 officers come join us, and we have proclamations to present. So when we have the officers come up here, circle, and every other one we have. And hold those, hold this, come on in, folks. Hold those. So Vice Chair, why don't you just read one and we can insert a name for 5, but just for posterity's sake here?
Recognition of exceptional service. In recognition of exceptional service performed on January 27, 2025, in providing life-saving first aid to an unconscious individual in medical distress at the Port Liberty Cruise Terminal. The Commissioners of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey hereby express to Police Officer Tepedino their sincere appreciation for his service to the Port Authority and the region it serves, and in particular for his outstanding performance in assisting with this medical response, thereby ensuring the safety and well-being of the traveling public at the Port Authority Cruise Terminal. Officer Tepedino.
Can we ask Commissioner Helmut to read the one regarding the bus terminal?
In recognition of exceptional service performed on January 9, 2025, administering emergency first aid which resulted in the resuscitation of a non-responsive individual, cardiac arrest at the Port Authority bus terminal. The Commissioners of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey hereby express to Police Officer Espino their sincere appreciation for his service to the Port Authority and the region it serves, and in particular for the outstanding performance in assisting with this medical response, thereby ensuring the safety and well-being of the traveling public at the Port Authority bus terminal.
Congratulations, folks. Thank you very much. We have a photograph.
Everyone right here? 3, 2, 1.
Commissioner Fine and McCabe, you want to give out your proclamations? The name will be good. Who are we at there? Officer Perez. Officer Perez. Thanks. Commissioner Fine.
Officer Catlins.
Superintendent, who's last?
Officer DeSalvo. Congratulations.
Again, round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't feel compelled to stay for the whole meeting, gentlemen. I mean, you can.
I briefed him already.
You did? Just want to take a moment to, our executive director is here in spirit and also in voice. He is home, recovering, just a little sick, but he's been active all morning. And I just want to salute Rick for a lot of things, but he last month received a special award, the Felix Rohatyn Award from the Citizens Budget Commission, which it really is given to an individual who exemplifies extraordinary public service and commitment to New York's sound fiscal management. Rick gets, I'm not jealous, but Rick gets a lot of these awards. But this one is really special. It speaks to Rick's drive, his the nature of he worries about every dollar. He's an amazing manager. He is the reason we have done these things over the last 7 and 8 years. He's the driver of this ship. And when you see awards like this, it's not the dime a dozen. This is the real deal. This is really special. And to my partner, Rick, congratulations, well deserved, and I'm sure this will not be the last of the awards that we'll be seeing. So how's that for an intro, Rick? Now you can read your report for March.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You didn't tell me that this was part of the program, but I appreciate the comments. I do apologize for being there virtually rather than in person, but given that I'm a bit under the weather, I thought it was safer for everybody. I will start this month's report thanking once again the staff and employees of the Port Authority, including the represented employees who make up 2/3 of our workforce. I also want to extend thanks to the leaders of the 23 unions who represent these employees. Commissioners, this has been a very busy period. You have already heard about the successful negotiation of the APMT lease, the release of our very strong 2024 financials, and the board consideration of funding for the LaGuardia Q70 bus improvements, and you will shortly hear about our successful PATH station overhaul and reopening. And while these are the highlights, it's certainly not all that the agency has been up to. Turning to the volumes that our facilities handled, the agency's three major airports recorded their busiest January ever in 2025, surpassing the January 2020 record by a full percentage point and surpassing January of 2024 by 3.5%. With respect to the individual airports, LaGuardia in January set a record for total and for domestic passengers, while both JFK and Newark Liberty set records for the number of international passengers. And early figures from February indicate that that month will also be extremely strong once the final figures are in. At the seaport, the port saw its busiest start of the year since the pandemic cargo surge and its third busiest January ever. The port in January 2025 handled 8% more cargo than January 2024 and 16% more than January 2019. February 2025 performance was also strong, with 11% more cargo handled than February of 24 and a full 19.5% more cargo than February of 2019. At the bridges and tunnels, traffic in January 2025 was down by 0.6% from January 2024. Traffic in February 2025 was in absolute terms down 6.4% from February 2024. Comparisons, however, are difficult until we have more data over a longer period of time. February 2024 had an extra day due to the fact that 2024 was a leap year. Without that extra day, traffic in February 2025 was down approximately 3% compared to a comparable number of days in February 2024. It's also to note that February 2025 had more bad weather days than February 2024. Bad weather generally reduces traffic. More data is simply necessary. The PATH system continued to see growth during February of 2025, but remained at roughly 70 to 75% of pre-pandemic ridership. February 2025 ridership was also driven down, largely due to passengers taking alternate modes of transportation during the closure of Hoboken Station. Anecdotally, Commissioner's PATH ridership began to return to January levels within days of the reopening. Turning now to awards. This month, the awards for the completed LaGuardia Airport continued to roll in, specifically coming from three different rating organizations. First, the Forbes Travel Guide on Tuesday, March 18th, formally presented LaGuardia with the Forbes Travel Guide Award for Best Airport in the United States, which was initially announced in October, but we had the CEO of the Forbes Travel Guide come to LaGuardia to physically deliver the plaque to us. The Skytrax ratings. On March 4th, the Port Authority and LaGuardia Gateway Partners were pleased to announce that LaGuardia Terminal B's prestigious Skytrax 5-star rating had been reaffirmed by Skytrax for this year. Terminal B at LaGuardia and Terminal A at Newark Liberty remain two of only three airports in the United States to have terminals with this stellar rating. Turning now to the Airport Service Quality Survey. On March 10th, the Port Authority and the Airport Council International, the administrator of the well-regarded Airport Service Quality Survey, announced that LaGuardia Airport had once again been voted the best airport in the United States in its size class, which is 25 to 40 million travelers annually. This is the second year in a row that LaGuardia has received this distinction. A very heartwarming celebration occurred this past Tuesday, March 25th, at Newark Liberty Terminal A. The Port Authority announced the opening of a second sensory room at Newark Liberty Terminal A. This room, which is a 1,400 square foot room post-security, adds to the pre-security sensory room at Newark Liberty that opened in December 2023. These two rooms together will provide a best-in-class customer experience for neurodivergent travelers. Both sensory rooms at Newark Airport were developed in consultation with the Anderson Center for Autism, which also trained airport staff on best practices for engaging and supporting neurodivergent travelers and their families. We thank the Anderson Center for their continued partnership. And Commissioners, I would also single out our Vice Chairman, who has led the effort here at the Port Authority to expand the recognition of the needs of neurodivergent individuals and their families. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Finally, at JetBlue Terminal 5 at Kennedy, we were able to announce earlier this month that the Port Authority, JetBlue, and Fraport USA announced a major commercial refresh to JFK Terminal 5, which will include more than 40 new concessions and feature iconic local concessionaires. It will also feature a suite of new art installations from public artists and a redesign of the central terminal area inspired by New York City's parks. The combination of the concessions and art refresh demonstrate the shared commitment of JetBlue and the Port Authority to adopt a customer-centric, locally inspired, world-class standard. And in addition to the commercial refresh, JetBlue also announced the first regular delivery of sustainable aviation fuel to JFK for commercial use. Port Authority is committed to continue to work closely with our partners to facilitate the adoption of sustainable aviation fuel wherever it is feasible, and thereby to advance our 2050 net zero goals. With that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Rick. With regard to LaGuardia obviously is an amazing story that we continue to hear about. It's reaching higher levels. But that Ford Award, I think it's voted by, 5,000 travelers who obviously know a good airport from a not good airport. That's really special. Obviously, the affirmation from Skytrax for LaGuardia and Newark, wonderful. But to see that Forbes thing really stands out. And to your point about the sensory room at Terminal A, the Vice Chair and I and Commissioner Bolwidge, with a number of Port Authority staff, went to the ribbon cutting. So there's two rooms that were open in Terminal A. There's a pre-security sensory room that some time ago the Vice Chair and his wife Tandra took a special interest in, to say that we need to spend some time and really cultivate a room that's very special for folks who need a little time to have a quiet time before they board their flight. And there was also a need at that time, Jeff, talking about a similar circumstance post-security. The Port Authority staff has located two very special rooms. As you go past the TSA, on the left-hand side, there's a large, I think it's a 1,400 square foot room. It's a meditation room. And as we were going right before the ribbon cutting, there was three men. They were praying on the open floor before the meditation room was open, and they were doing their daily prayers. And I was just saying to some of the staff, it's amazing that we as a society have not allowed enough of the meditation room or religious spots for folks to have an observation. So when you go to that meditation room, you saw it, Jeff. It's just an amazing place for folks of all walks, whether you have a quiet moment, you meditate, or whether you're of any religion, just go and have a moment to yourself. And I think those are the basic necessities we need to kind of provide for our travelers who come from all over the world. And when you go to the right of the TSA, you see this 1,400 square foot room. It's more than a room. It is just amazing. It is, you walk in and you see in the back there's screens with underwater, there's a bunch of fish, and there's a quietness and there's a nice little air to it. And it just has this sense that when whether it's Dylan or somebody like Dylan, and that's kind of the impetus that Jeff's daughter, who kind of educated me as to some of the special things we need to do to help those who need a little extra moment or a little just space. And what they did, our staff did, they created a little room to the side for the folks who have not been on a plane before, and it's an exact measurement of going actually into the airplane, and it has 3 rows of seats. So the folks who are either upset or anxious, they will sit in a seat, they will see the jump seat, they'll see the lights, they'll see the noise, and they get themselves acclimated before they actually get into the airplane, which I'm told by folks at Anderson reduces their level of anxiety. Like, those are the things you do at the Port Authority that make a real difference, really special things. And I also said at that time, we had a 39-year-old woman that day in Newark who had muscular dystrophy, severe, in a wheelchair, very difficult, and traveling for the first time in 10 years, and had many, many bags of medical devices. And it was really difficult because you have a lithium battery and all kinds of mobility issues. Port Authority staff came together and made sure that Lauren got through with as little disruption and anxiety for Lauren and her 4-year-old daughter, Mia. It was just, that's what the Port does, Jeff. And to you and Tandra for setting the stage and giving us that understanding. We need to do more of that. I'm told that less than like 1% of the airports have sensory rooms. It cost us $6 million for the meditation room and for the sensory room, but when you see it, you will be astonished. Now, the only thing I question is that, so there's like 3 screens and there's this beautiful tropical fish underwater, and we're told one of our employees, and Jim, I'm going to question you on this one. One of our employees, Frank Raddick, he actually went deep sea diving and captured this. That was his job. And I said to Frank, where did you go? He goes, the Grand Caymans. I go, what? You went to the Grand Caymans for this? Now, he tells me he was on a personal trip, Jim, and I will take him at his word. And he also said that he could have gone deep sea fishing and seen similar fish. He said there's tropical fish off of the Atlantic in Jersey, off the Jersey shore. So I want to know if that was an official trip or not.
His own time.
Okay, his own time. Didn't answer the question, but it's okay. Jeff, thank you to you and Tandra for making that effort. It makes it special, and we need to have all of our airports need to have those pre-security and post-security sensory rooms. Now, if you want to address that.
I just want to thank all the team, all the family of the Port Authority who have stood up and raised their hands over the past several years to make sure that neurodivergent individuals can travel at our airports with a certain amount of care and opportunity. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all my colleagues.
Job well done by Port Authority Aviation. Great job. Next order of business, our Director of PATH Rail Services, Clarel DeGraff, will discuss the successful reopening of the PATH Hoboken Station following an extensive construction work over the 25 a day. She'll also be showing a short video in a moment to the extent of the construction and recognizing key staff members who dedicated their time, their professionalism. It's unparalleled. But Clarel, I got to tell you, so last night I had the fortune of taking my son, who turned 28, with his girlfriend Meryl, my wife, and my daughter Ryan Marie, and her husband Kaysan to dinner. And we're talking about what are we doing and the next day. So they're all talking about their activity. And I said, well, Thursday, Yankee opening day. I said, number one. 2, I said, we're going to Port Authority meeting. And my daughter, who didn't really care, she said, well, what are you going to talk about? I said, I talk about Hoboken. I swear to you, I say about Hoboken at the dinner table. So after 5 minutes of telling my daughter, because I received a briefing from Rizwan as to all the activity that went on, I went on for 5 minutes about all these amazing things in Hoboken. My 25-year-old daughter, who I love to death, said to me, Dad, I think you have a mental disorder. I swear to God. And she's
We have a special room.
She says that to me. And my daughter works for me at the law firm, and once a week she'll come to me because she thinks I got hyper focused on things, which is probably true. So I'm home that night, and I said to my wife, I go, did you hear what Ryan said? I go, what do you think? She goes, do you really want me to answer that question? But I do get hyper-focused on stuff like this. Like, you get so excited about, and let me just tell you, when the Port Authority does so many great things all the time. And when this Hoboken thing came about a few months ago, we said, we're going to close Hoboken for 25 days. And I said, are you insane? Like, no, like, we're having more problems just trying to navigate with people coming back. It's going to be crazy. But then Clarel came to us with a plan, which we're going to talk about. And we said, look, here's the thing. if we're going to do it, let's do it right. We have to make the changes as opposed to having these take a weekend every weekend for a year. Let's bite the bullet, go 25 days, and just get this thing done right. And we've got everyone together, and the communications has been amazing, the planning amazing. Rick and I and a bunch of staff have gone pre-planning during this operation and after. And we have a video, a time-lapse video. You have to see it to really appreciate the beauty, the hard work, the majesty of this entire project. So do we have that video queued up, by the way? Let's.
Good morning and welcome back.
That's the magic of the Port Authority. So, for context, I mean, they talked about literally for the Hoboken, the finishes alone, 12,000 square feet of new flooring, okay? You had 100 pallets of material, 10 tractor loads, 1,800 linear feet of platform, 350 LED lights. You know, you talk about, you know, there's 12 different trades that were working there. We replaced 3 1 million BTU heaters that were being used to heat. The contractors were there 24/7 for 25 days. The switching stations, you talk about the 7,200 linear feet that needed to be replaced. 1,500 feet of tracks, tiles were replaced. Like 24 football fields, the equivalent of. If you saw it, you'd just be so impressed. Just getting the material there, just ripping it out is extraordinary. So, Clara, before you give your thing, just can you point out from your end that I want Riz, you get up here to point out the folks in engineering and Path in particular, who were the anchors have held this whole program together. If we could just recognize them for a moment before, Clara, you give your official presentation.
Absolutely, Chairman. So this, as you were saying before, this is Port Authority at its best. So it was Path together with engineering, but also communications, our communication. Some of them are shy. But this is Port Authority at its best, Chairman.
Riz, come up for a second with Clarell and just talk about some of the folks in your shop, and then Clarell, you go and do your program, because we ran into them every day. They were like loving this. This was their life.
So I think, Chairman, first thing I will say that none of this is possible without the great leadership. And none of this is possible without the collaboration among all the departments of the agency. And none of this is possible without the tradeswomen and tradesmen and the contractors who generally sometimes forget, and the cooperation of our customers that goes through that area. So right now I have with us is Andrew Friswell, who's our Chief of Construction, right there, and I also have Omar Solomon, who's our Senior Engineer of Construction for the PATH program, and there is many more. We couldn't fit all of them in here, so that's why we didn't bring all of them in here. So.
We're given a number.
Clarell, how about your key folks?
Key folks to the left. I'll start with communications. I'll take your folks, Ben. We have Amanda, Lauren, sorry, and Patrick from communications team. PATH team on the back, Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Rolling Stock, Tom Crowell. Our Assistant Director of Communications is Customer Experience, Rebecca Rio. Deputy Director for Operations, Sanchita Jimenez. Damien as the Assistant Director for Capital Construction. John Burkhart, who is the Assistant Director for Maintenance and Infrastructure. And also, I'd also like to recognize GoCorp, Zach and his team, Zach McHugh, Chief of, he's looking in the back, Zach McHugh, also Kristen Figaro in the back, and Jason Grove, Ben Feldman. Again, it was a team effort. The agency at its best pulling together, and if I could use one word to just bring all of that together, I would say the word alignment. And it really was everybody pulling together to understand that we had one purpose, and that was to develop a plan and then execute a plan that would do enough work to be able to reopen the station as we promised to our customers in the region by February, within the 25 days, by 5 a.m., February 25th.
All right, quick question, Clarell. When did you think this was not going to get done? What was the low point of this whole?
Oh, boy, every day. Every day.
When did you say it was going to get done?
I would really say in the beginning, the confidence was low because we were thinking the way we always do, right? We do things, same old, same old. But this really took these leaders to think outside the box. They had to pull all the stops out with a lot of nudging from Jim Heitman, pull all the stops. Rizwan using his chief engineer authority, bringing the contractors in, bringing them in as partners instead of low bid contractors. You are a partner and your name is on this. And, so we need to succeed. We can create win-wins here for everyone. And everybody was aligned with that one purpose, reopening on February 25th. And this is the team that led that effort.
Thank you very much. Exceptionally job well done. And part of it, as you said, the messaging, like leading up into this, I know Ben and others, Feldman and others said it was really important to keep those folks because we're getting a bunch of these emails and contacts. So we were saying, okay, here's what's being done. And during the actual 25 days, emails were going out and video shots were going out to the folks who are concerned about here's the progress. So you're keeping them in the loop, which was really, really good. We were talking to some of the folks during the course of this, and no one believed this was going to open in 25 days. I'm telling you, nobody. And then when you did, and I know you made the no fare for that morning, which whoever made that idea was a great idea, and then to give up cups of coffee to folks, that really, like, that little thing, like, makes it easier as they're doing the ferry, which they didn't want to do, or going on the bus, or changing their journey. But Clarell, your leadership, amazing, astonishing. Riz, amazing. Thank you very much. And to all of your folks, thank you on behalf of the board. Job well done.
Thank you.
Anybody want to add anything? We're good? All right, moving ahead. We now will provide an opportunity for members of the public to comment on Port Authority matters. The public Comment period will be limited to 30 minutes in total. It provides an opportunity for members of the public to present their views directly to us and not necessarily have a dialogue. Members who, from the public, want to have a specific comment or question, please notify our staff and we'll route you to the appropriate department or staff member. We're asked that you comply with a 3-minute requirement, please. First speaker, we have Frank Giantomasi and Peter Jabbour. Frank, I know you're out there. Peter? Now, Frank, as you're coming up here, you know, your county executive at Essex County, Joe D., he thinks he's the best contractor. I want you to show him that video and tell him he's got nothing on us here at the Port Authority. Yeah.
Very tough.
Peter, Frank, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman. Members of the board. So my name is Peter Jabbour. I'm the General Counsel for the Americas for A.P. Moller Maersk AS. And in that role, I provide our leadership for our corporate affairs in North and South America for both APM terminals and also Maersk, shipping line. I've been with the company for over 16 years. That tenure, though, exceeded by the fact that I'm a lifelong New Jersey resident and lived in Hoboken the last 16 years. So I have a dual perspective on this transaction that you were briefed today. As you heard from Director Rooney and Chief Development Officer Utter, Maersk started as a family business in 1904 by Arnold Peter Moller, APM, and then he passed on the business to his son, Maersk McKinney Moller. The company has a unique and long-standing relationship with the U.S. During World War II, APM sent his son, Maersk, to run the company from New York. And during that time, we lost over half the fleet in support of the U.S. military at that time. Since then, the company's had a strong connection both to the New York, New Jersey area, and today we actually are the largest fleet of U.S. merchant marines sailing in international waters. Our first vessel call, as Director Rooney pointed out, was to New York in 1915. Our first dedicated container terminal port in New York, New Jersey was 1975. At that point, no one could have predicted how containerization really impacted global trade in this market. Today, we handle over 25% of the container traffic in the Port of New York, New Jersey. We've consistently invested in our infrastructure and equipment over the many years. This extension will enable us ahead of time to significantly increase our capacity, our efficiency for their customers, and the global supply chain that's really anchored in New York, New Jersey. And we will do this without operational disruption to the port, which is critical as we talk about those growth numbers. We'll optimize the terminal layout, renew and electrify our container handling equipment for decarbonization, and raise critical infrastructure for climate resilience. We will future-proof the container berths, install shore power for vessel operations, and provide a healthier and cleaner environment for employees and millions of people surrounding areas. We will do this with the women and men of the International Longshoremen Association. I'd like to take the opportunity to recognize the work of a few individuals on the port side. Derek Utter, Beth Rooney, Amy Fisher, Mike Baza, and the many other Port Authority professionals that put in hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of work into securing this landmark agreement. They took a constructive approach to solving problems and finding solutions. And this deal would not have happened without their support. I've been involved in concession negotiations and amendments in Europe, in South America, in North America, and Africa. And I can truly say that this was one of the most professional and skilled approaches. We've been at this since August of 2023 to really secure this deal and build a better and bigger, really, operation for the port. So in closing, I want to thank the board for your consideration of this agreement. Again, I have the benefit of being not only a marine terminal professional, but also a resident of New York, New Jersey, and I am very happy for this deal because as a corporate representative, but also as a citizen and a taxpayer, this is a true win-win deal that really sets the bar at a whole new level. So I'd like to thank you for your consideration. A partner through all of this was Frank Giantomasi of Chiesa, who wants to also say a few words. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners. First, let me thank Peter Jabbour and Maersk for giving us the opportunity, CSG Law, to participate in this venture. You should all know that I share a distinct view of the port because I'm born and raised in the Ironbound section of Newark, 45 years practicing a lawyer in the state of New Jersey, and my cousin was the business agent for the ILA with the first contract between the ILA and the Port Authority back in the 40s. So I have a unique view. And I will tell you that this has been a project, a legal project of incredible magnitude, both on the dollar side and on the lawyering side. We resulted in an over 100-page addendum that is really going to be the template for you to use throughout your processes. What Peter and I thought I would speak on for just a brief moment is the view from the other side of the table. You know your team. I see the way you extol their virtues and their excellence, but you should understand from the other side of the table, your team was excellent, transparent, honest, open, fair. I can't tell you how your lawyers, Beth Rooney, Derek Utter, how they dealt with us. The entire process was something that you should understand. As proud as you are of the construction, you should be as proud of the negotiating team and the lawyers and the entire operation. Now, I have to stop and say a couple of quick words. Executive Director Cotton, every meeting was a gentleman and an expert and really showed us respect. Peter Simon, I don't know how he answers the cell phone so quickly. I don't know how he's so responsive. He's a man that's tireless in his effort and his work. But you should all know from the other side of the table, your chairman, O'Toole, was incredible. He started this process with hands-on approach. He participated, he monitored, he facilitated, and he always had the best interests of your agency. He was there for the enterprise, and the enterprise first. So Peter thought, I should just let you know from our side of the table, kudos, bravo, fair was the byline, and really got us to the finish line. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, all the commissioners, and thank you, the team that you put before us. Thank you very much.
Frank, thank you very much. Peter, thank you very much. And we'll just say, look, we don't really have this dialogue, but it's, you know, it's tough negotiations, right? Year and a half, almost 2 years, Peter, and it's serious stuff. We're talking about values of what would it be in billions. But to hear that and to hear your perspective, Peter, about the other places you've negotiated nationally, internationally, that the Port Authority was one of the fairest, it's really welcome news. I mean, we knew it, but to hear it from the outside, and Frank, to hear you say, whether we know Rick and Derek and Beth, and these folks are just, they're the best. They really are. And I'm glad we wrapped this up, and we have created the template now, the second one, and hopefully we're going to follow through in 3 and 4 with what's been put together with that 100-page addendum. But thank you for all of the effort, and we hope to have a successful vote here today. And I think for the next 3 decades, good times for the shipping department and the ports here in New York and New Jersey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Matthew, come on up. Welcome to Jersey City, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much, Chairman, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matty W. Buckies, or Matty W. Buckies Highland. I'm a Long Island resident and advocate for people with developmental disabilities and a clerical trainee, as you can see on my shirt, at the Winter Center for Autism in West Babylon, New York. Next month, the month of April, is Autism Awareness Month, and this Wednesday being World Autism Awareness Day. Today, the CDC estimates that 1 in every 36 children in the United States are diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder, and boys are almost 5 times more likely to be diagnosed than girls. As a trainee for the Winter Center for Autism, I have the great fortune of doing clerical tasks involving clerical work on the direction of my job coach, Tammy Vitebsky, or Tammy Vitebsky, who has been training me for almost 10 months, and I'm proud to call her a friend and a mentor. Hi, Tammy, if you're watching this. While I am proud that the Port Authority has made progress for people with autism, including having a sensory room at Newark Liberty International Airport, there still is so much to do. One mind I have in mind is a card right here. This is a copy to navigate the system. This could be helpful if the Port Authority police start questioning people with autism. We have done this before with the Suffolk County Police and Sheriff's Office and with the Metropolitan Transportation Authority Police. It has been useful when the police question individuals with autism. This is from the Suffolk County Sheriff's Office. I'll give you guys a copy if you want. For individuals with autism. I hope that someday that the Port Authority Police will create cards to make the experience for people with autism a little less stressful and a little more smoother. To close, I would like to thank Chairman Kevin J. O'Toole, Vice Chairman Jeffrey H. Linford, Commissioners Bolwage, Eve, Fine, Fisher, Helmy, Kelly, LaBarbera, McCabe, Richardson, and Rosado. and of course to Executive Director Rick Cotton. A special thanks also goes to Governor Hochul of New York and Governor Murphy of New Jersey for their part in helping the autism community. Together and united, you can make a difference. I ask everybody this Wednesday to please wear blue for World Autism Awareness Day. And lastly, on behalf of the millions around the world who are dealing with autism, we would like to thank the Port Authority for giving us a chance where we are accepted and understood for who we are. Thank you. May God bless you. And may God bless the people around the world with autism. I turn back over to Chairman Kevin J. O'Toole. I hope I can shake all of your hands, everybody. Thank you.
Matthew, come on up and shake everyone's hand. Come on up. Matthew, hold on. Before you go to the rest, we have a little package for you, a care package.
I hope you got your signature on there.
Wait a minute. The only thing, there's a bunch of cool stuff, some Port PD, but there's a glass in here as well, so be careful, but there's some cool stuff
Thank
there.
you. As a
all right?
police science student, I would do that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Matthew. All righty, thank you. Is Paul Prezizano around? Paul?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is unplanned. I didn't realize there'd be a presentation from the PATH today on their reopening. So this was not planned or planted, let's put it that way. My name is Paul Prezizano. I'm the First Ward Councilman in Hoboken, New Jersey. And today I'm going to speak on behalf of my fellow council members, Ramos, Fisher, and Russo, that will echo the remarks that I give you today. I want to commend the PATH and the Port Authority, recognize them for the outstanding work during the recent service closure. We were skeptical, to say the least, in the beginning. Initial concerns from the community turned into praise, and due to the excellent communication and planning which you rehashed today. Issues were to resolve quickly, via phone, via text, or email, with fast and clear responses and immediate action. I'd like to give a special thanks to Jason Grove for being available at a moment's notice and addressing anything that I did contact him with. The positive community response was a lot more than we expected. Hoboken residents appreciated the increased bus service, which at times the lines were long, which you may have seen, but they moved very quickly. Many experienced the reliability and flexibility of our transit system in an event like this, and some for the first time. Discounted ferry rides were a convenient, cost-effective alternative that some people never took the ferry before because of the cost, and now they do. It's something potential that I think we should work together with New York Waterway to see if we can explore further. Some of the key takeaways that I got from this and that we got from this in Hoboken as elected officials, that when customers speak up, their needs can be addressed when you have the correct plan. Transit problems are solvable, which you proved, closing a major transportation hub and getting everything done. But it involves attention and creativity, which you acknowledged with an earlier speaker. Now, I'd like to call some things a call to action. The success of the plan shows we can achieve more. Jersey City's growth has been outpacing Hoboken's, and this affects regional planning, and we understand that. Data has shown that you publish that weekly ridership has increased in significant levels since COVID versus the weekly schedules, weekly ridership. Riders are feeling the impacts on the weekends, crowded trains, longer waits, more stress. So what can we do? Questions for the future. Can we bring back discounted ferry service? Can we pilot a bold new transit solution? Can we work with New Jersey Transit to work on a harmony with the PATH's plan? And what type of feedback with us as electeds can help you get to a better solution? In closing, when transit works well, people use it. Let's build on this momentum of what we've shown in an event that we just had. Thank you again for turning a difficult situation into a positive outcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Douglas Freeman?
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon.
Port Authority. So first I want to say thank you to Zach McHugh for the excellent work he has done in bringing our community together. But I want to talk about the South Ward EWR. It's an excellent project, but we have some concerns when you talk about the port. In our area, there's an impact. Because of Elizabeth building the warehouses, we're going to have an influx of trucks that's coming down Freelines Avenue. So when we go to the access point, how are we working on safety from the trucks that's going to be coming down Freelines Avenue? The other point I want to talk about is the green acres and also the green space with recreation. When the youth programs that's in Essex County in the particular areas, we spend about $25,000 to $26,000 just to go to another state. And that means we're taking our money from out of New Jersey, out of Essex County, and out of this particular area, and we're going to another state and dealing with their hotels. I just want to, I know that this is not something that the Port Authority deals with, but when we look at the NJEDA and we have these different conversations, you know, sometimes there's people from our particular area, they represent themselves. They don't represent the environmentals that you speak of, and we don't get the information, right? So when we look at what do we want indoor space. When you look at Weekway Park, you look at the golf course, and you look at all the things that we have done with NFL Flag and NBA Juniors and all these different organizations that are now in Essex County. We're doing over 200 and something thousand people just in Weekway Park. But now we need to really focus on indoor activities. Why? Because that's going to bring revenue that's going to come into our particular area. When you look at the spaces that are parking lots, we could go up with indoor spaces with recreation. You know, when you look at northern New Jersey, you look at southern New Jersey, they also are asking, where can we do these different tennis sports and track and field? You're talking about millions and billions of dollars that you're just missing the opportunity with on the Aerotropolis. You know, these are the things that we need to focus on when we look at the areas in which we need to create jobs. Jobs are not just created with warehouses and trucks. Those are merchandises that we probably could keep a sports authority if we actually be able to have the opportunity to create businesses around recreation. Right? You look at Central Park, you look at the different areas, environmental is key now. And we want to make sure that we capitalize all the way down to DC to make sure that we have the opportunity to have indoor spaces that encompass everybody in Essex County and northern New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you. Willie Jetty? Willie? Yeah, okay. Ko Suzuki? Got it. Ko? Ready. Ben Trauner? Is Ben here? Deborah Grief? Okay. Ann Menino? Deborah and Ann, are they back there? No, I don't see them. Dan Laney? Dan?
Good afternoon. My name is Dan Lane, and I live right up the street from here near the Grove Street Path Station. I volunteer with Hudson County Complete Streets. Thank you, commissioners and staff, for the opportunity to speak before you today. And thank you and congratulations to the Path staff who played a role in the recent renovations in Hoboken. I don't mean at all to rain on your parade here. But that said, I'm here to ask for better Path service, specifically on nights and weekends, where we need more trains and an ends to the practice of combining the Journal Square 33rd and Hoboken 33rd lines. Like many people in Hudson County, I rely on the Path. Without it, I would be disconnected from my many connections in New York, where I grew up. Buses, ferries, and cars are simply not an adequate substitute for me, so path delays and infrequent service come with a great cost to riders like myself and to the regional economy. 20-minute headways are simply not enough, even on nights and weekends. It's going to be a gorgeous day on Saturday, and I hope that you all have some fun plans outside. But if you don't, I have a request for you. See for yourself what things are like for riders like me on a nice weekend day. The path will be packed to the point that it's uncomfortable, and maybe even dangerous. If you get on here at Exchange Place Saturday morning, you might find that you need to elbow your way on. You might see stressed parents trying to minimize their use of the scarce space by squeezing their stroller next to 2 or 3 e-bikes, which incidentally aren't allowed on PATH. It's the same story if you get on at Newport or if you take the return trip from New York to New Jersey in the afternoon or evening. And PATH had better weekend service in the past. According to PATH schedules, the travel time from Journal Square to 33rd Street on weekends has gone from 18 minutes in the 1990s to 31 minutes today. Much of the increase is due to the addition of the stop in Hoboken, but not all of it. In 2006, according to PATH schedules, a Journal Square Hoboken 33rd Street train took 26 minutes, which is 5 minutes faster than today. This after tower rises in Journal Square and downtown Jersey City. On a weekend in 2006, a train left Newark towards the World Trade Center every 15 minutes for most of the day. Today that's 20 minutes, and the trip has gone from 22 to 25 minutes. If PATH could run those service levels in the past, then it can do it again today. Things are supposed to get better, after all, and not worse. It's true that the system is old and requires significant maintenance, and nights and weekends are the natural time to do that. Even so, maintenance-related service disruptions must be thoughtfully mitigated to reduce rider impact. On that note, the PATH should undertake more significant capital improvements, like those recently done at Hoboken, to reduce the need for ongoing maintenance. To reiterate, the PATH rider base and ridership patterns have changed due to remote work, and service levels must change in tandem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We have a video. First of all, any other live speakers, Jim?
No, there are no other live speakers.
Great. We have a video from Jesse Halpern. Want to play that?
My name is Jesse, and I am making these comments in my personal capacity. Like a certain politician's recent press conference at the GW Bridge in protest of congestion pricing, I am mad. Though when I am mad, I am usually on the GW Bridge in a car that is stuck in traffic. Now, I am definitely not a so-called not in my backyard or NIMBY. I don't even have a backyard. I am just here to ask this board to seriously consider what will happen if PATH train service is allowed to improve. Sure, first it starts with better transit service, but where does it end? For those of us living in North Jersey, traffic is our heritage, and with God as my witness, it must be protected. Say the PATH train decreases headways to every 3 minutes during rush hour and every 5 to 10 minutes on weekends. How will traffic survive? Losing our God-given traffic is a slippery slope. What comes next? Quieter neighborhoods? If my neighborhood is quieter at night, what am I supposed to get angry about? First comes transit, and then comes denser developments with a more robust property tax base. And everyone knows that taxes go to useless things like roads, public schools, and other things that definitely nobody benefits from. And like many politicians, I am not going to let a silly little thing like facts get in the way of my rage. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that so-called better transit is a dangerous slope to a society without traffic. I ask this board to seriously consider the consequences of what improving and expanding the PATH train really means for this region. Thank you.
Jim, we have 2 written statements from Patrick Scolai and Jason Tung.
Yes, and they'll be filed with the transcription of today's meeting. In addition, we had another written statement from Rachel Faust from reInvent Albany.
And that'll be included?
Yes.
Okay. Any other speakers lined up?
There are none.
Okay. All righty, that concludes the public portion. Moving ahead, we're now going to proceed with the voting of the items before the board for consideration. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to each of the matters being considered. As chair of the Committee on Operations, I will now present 3 items under the committee's purview. First item, which is presented, is in committee earlier today, we authorized a supplement to the existing lease with APM for its continued operation and maintenance of the APM terminal at the Elizabeth Port Authority Marine Terminal for an additional 33 years, consistent with the terms presented by the Chief of Development and Port Director in today's report. Prior to making a motion, do we have any recusals?
There are none.
Do we have a motion? We have a motion? Second? Roll call, please.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
He's a yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bolwage has filed his affirmative vote.
He's a yes, correct.
Tim, I'm here. I vote yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. All the votes are in order. The item's been approved. Next item approves a collective bargaining agreement with Local 641, International Brotherhood of its Teamsters, which represents approximately 115 PATH employees who provide clerical, stockkeeping, and customer service. This agreement was ratified by the union members on March 1, 2025, and it's for a 12-month period. Prior to making a motion, we ask, are there any recusals?
There are none.
Any questions, comments? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
All the votes are in order. The item's been approved. Next item approves a collective bargaining agreement with the Maintenance Division of the Building Trades Council of Greater New York, which represents about 140 Port Authority employees, various skilled construction trades. This was ratified by the members on March 21, and it's for a 38-month period, retroactive to 2023. Prior to making a motion, are there any recusals?
There are no recusals.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved.
Second.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford is
Yes.
affirmative? Okay. Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
All the votes are in order. The item has been approved. As the Vice Chair of Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, Asset Management, will now provide a report on two items before the committee. First item, which was presented in committee earlier today, authorizes a $160 million project for improvements to the Q70 LaGuardia Link bus service for LaGuardia. Any recusals on this matter, Jim?
There are none.
Any questions or comments? A motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman
He's
Linford?
a yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Votes are in order. The motion's been approved. Next item is the authorizes $2.5 million for planning work for the future rehabilitation of portions of taxiways A and B at John F. Kennedy International Airport. Do we have any recusals?
There are none.
Any questions or comments from the commissioners? Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford?
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
Motion's been approved. Items approved, rather. Commissioner McCabe, as Chair of the Audit Committee, will now provide his report.
Thank you, Chairman. Pursuant to its authority under the bylaws and its charter, the members of the Audit Committee have reviewed and approved the Port Authority's financial statements and appended notes for the year ended December 31, 2024. As such, the committee recommends to the board that the financial statements be included in the Port Authority's 2024 annual report and other publications as appropriate. Prior to making a motion on this item, I ask the Secretary to note any commissioner recusals on this matter.
There are none.
Do any commissioners have any questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, can I now request a motion on the item?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. I now request the Secretary to call roll for voting on this item.
Chairman O'Toole?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford was an affirmative.
Yes.
Commissioner Bolwage?
Yes.
Commissioner Eve?
Yes.
Commissioner Fine?
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yes.
Commissioner Helmy?
Yes.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yes.
As the votes are in order, the item is approved. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. No further business. Move to adjourn. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Meeting's
Aye.
adjourned. We'll see everybody in April. Good afternoon. Ready, Tom?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get our Q&A started. Our first question is Michael Aronson with the Daily News. Michael, do we have you? And you just need *6. If that's you on the phone number, Mike, you need to *6 to unmute yourself.
Looks unmuted.
Did that work?
I heard something. You
Am I unmuted? Am I
Yeah, you're
audible?
fine. Yep, we can hear you, Michael.
You are indeed. And Michael, I would note that
All right,
Rick Cotton
so,
is on the line also, so you have him as well, remote.
I heard that. So Rick, feel better. It's 5 years since you were COVID patient number 0, or maybe your wife was 0 and you were 1. Question about our favorite bus at our favorite airport. Noticed they're going to do improvements at the subway station with the green lights on the highway.
Yeah, that's correct. You may have cut out, Michael.
Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you for doing this. Regarding
Tom, I can't hear a question.
Yeah, we heard regarding, but then you cut out.
Okay. Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
Okay. A number of
Michael, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think you got your connection is not as bad, Mike. Michael, you're unmuted, but we just can't hear you.
Can we go to Larry?
Are there any improvements at the airport itself for passengers getting off planes? So people arriving who don't know about a bus will see there is a free 10-minute bus to the airport. Are there going to be any signs inside the airport to alert unaware riders of this transportation option? That's what I'm trying to find out. Thank you.
Well, the answer is yes. We have, hopefully you've noted that there are quite a few signs saying that it's free, and as improvements come on and we can make potential riders aware of the improvement in the service, we will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is Larry Higgs with NJ Advanced Media.
Thanks, and feel better, Rick.
Thank you.
The nasal malaise myself. I have 2 path questions. Surprise. The first question is, what work remains to be done at Hoboken? I know there are a couple of finish-up items with some of the flooring and what have you. And the second question involves what some of the public speakers requested. What is the status of getting more robust service on the weekends now that the big infrastructure work is done?
Jim Clarell, you want to jump in? Jim?
Sure. So, what was the first question again?
How much of the work has been done? How much is left? And in terms of addressing some of the issues raised by the speakers today.
Gotcha. So, on the first question, the finishes work, I think by now is complete. We had to come back and do some of the platform refinishing, and then there were some staging areas that we couldn't access during that. That was part of the plan. And there's also a stairwell that requires some structural modification. So a lot of this was part of the long-term plan. Where we didn't get as far as we wanted to was in the track, but that is part of a larger track program. We're going to next focus area between Hoboken and Grove Street. So the track program is part of an ongoing program. The goal was to close the station and get as much work done most efficiently. So we got the critical switch that you saw, we got the critical curve track coming out of the station, and now we're moving on with our own staff to make up for some of the track work that wasn't done. And in terms of what other people are asking for, we've been studying service level improvements. We did a few last year. Most of the service level disruptions right now are because we're in this Path Forward program. We're doing a lot of construction, so it's not well known that we're on reduced services during many parts of the weekends especially. So we're able to restore Newark to World Trade on the weekends back to 20 minutes. The bigger challenge with respect to the overnight, it has to do with we have 2 tracks. We really have to do maintenance on those tracks, and in order to keep service going, you have to do the round-the-world service as a means to be able to maintain the trains, tracks, and other equipment while running the 24-hour system.
I would also add to that, Larry, one of the challenges we have is balancing maintenance of a 117-year-old system with improving service. So as Jim said, we are looking at that, trying to, again, think outside the box. What can we do with our customers in mind, while at the same time, keeping up with our maintenance and FRA required inspections, visual inspections of the tracks and other elements. So more to come on that, though.
Thanks, Corral.
All right, that concludes the Q&A. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.